I have with me a repeat guest, Misty Linn from Core Ohio Realty Advisors. And I'm excited about this conversation because we were just chatting before we got rolling that you are the first realtor that I am coming back to and having as a guest on the podcast from the very first time around that I started doing. At the time, we called it Agent Spotlight.
Yep.
And tell me more. I kind of just wanted to rebrand it, right? Because I want to get into different conversations, and this is one of them. I want to stay in touch with those that I've already spoken with, and just want to kind of see where things are at, and just see what's happened since the last time we connected. So Misty, thank you so much for jumping on here with me and getting prepared for this conversation. I actually went back and I listened to our original podcast that shared your story. And if you guys haven't heard that podcast, go back and listen to it. It was actually February of 2020.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
right before all of the craziness
Yeah.
happened in the world. And that was one of the things I wanted to touch on, because at the end of those conversations, I always ask, what's a 1-year goal for you, and what's a 5-year goal for you? And just taking some notes, the 1-year goal was back then you were starting to kind of hire some more staff help. I think at the time, at end of 2019, you had brought on a buyer's agent to start, I think, building your own team.
Yeah.
And you were working on kind of putting systems in place to help your team members be a little bit more efficient. For example, I think you had partnered up with the staging company at that point, and you spoke about, getting a truck and all of those things. So I wanted to kind of just touch on that real quick, as how did the rest of 2020 shake out with some of your 1-year goals? We'll talk about, COVID and those, how you navigate those waters. But from the 1-year goal standpoint of 2019 going into 2020, can you kind of fill us in of how your business was at that time?
Yeah. So thanks for having me on again. Just hearing, back 2019, 2020, my business has changed quite a bit. So, February going into COVID, that was the plan, right? To amp up, to hire more people, and then COVID hits, and it kind of gives you a pause. So there was a 2-week period where I was, I think everybody was like, what is happening? What's happening in our world right now? And how is that going to affect my business? And how do I have to pivot to change my business? So I instantly thought I have to do everything virtually. We're not going to show houses anymore. Everything has to be virtual. And then, let that set for like 2 weeks, which was a good time for me too, because I was super busy. I was go, trying to put systems in place, working with Amanda Williams from Mission Design and Staging. We were just amping up that side of the business. I purchased a box truck, so we had the truck, and then COVID happens. So, those 2 weeks gave me time to really sit with myself and sit with my business, to prioritize my business as well. But as you know, real estate did not slow down. If anything, we tripled our business. So it was go, again, so it was busy. I was happy. I was thriving. Business was thriving. Real estate was good. But yeah, I did hire, hired a couple buyer's agents actually. And then Amanda and I from, like I said, Mission Design and Staging, we teamed up and hit the ground running.
So during those 2 weeks of pause, and it's funny that you kind of mentioned that. I was at a leadership conference the other day, Roy Hall Jr. put on, and Debbie Penzone, the now CEO of Penzone Salon, mentioned multiple times that through the 50-year history of their business, that there's been multiple pauses, right? And through those pauses, it's actually allowed them to be more creative, and look at different opportunities. But one of the things that you had mentioned on our previous conversation was, I think it was like 2018, you're kind of just running, and you kind of just said it as well, like, you're just kind of going. And that was one of the big goals, was setting up systems to help your partners, whether it's team agents, brokerage, partners with stagers. I know you do a lot with investors, but really putting those systems in place to allow them to run faster themselves, right? Be a little bit more efficient, be able to produce at a higher level. But during that reflection, was there anything that changed as far as your goals? COVID 2020, like that whole year was wild for everyone. But in real estate, we thought it was probably going to go one way and not in a good way. But I think for a lot of people, it actually helped their business take off.
For sure. Yeah. No, I think for a lot of people, it helped their business take off. And so for me, number one, I bought out my business partner at my brokerage. So I own Ohio solely.
Awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's a big move.
It was a big move during a pandemic. Yeah. But it was, he was shifting more into property management. I was really amping up the investor side of things. So it just made sense on the real estate side for me to own the company and him to go do what he wanted to do, with the property management side. So purchasing Core Ohio, teaming up with stager, adding a designer, because that investor side of my business also took off. So, I mean, it was, real estate buying, selling, but then the investor side, it was, we were doing new development at that time. We were multiple levels of investing. So hiring and putting the systems in place became, top priority in order to monopolize on such a great market that we were having.
And the investment side was already running.
Yes.
Fast for you.
It was running very fast. It was, I'll say it probably was running too fast, because, those 2 weeks of that slowdown of like, oh my God, what's happening with my business? What's happening in this world? What we're going to do? It allowed me to sit with myself and slow down for a second, and then truly think about, do I want to be in business and, investing with all of these people? Because, there were some partnerships and investors that I was working with, like, if a name comes up over your phone and you're like, man, I gotta talk to that guy again. You probably shouldn't be working with them. But when you're running 100 miles an hour and you're just the go person, so it doesn't allow you to make those changes, and until you actually sit with yourself to say, I can't work like this anymore.
Yeah.
You don't value my time. You don't understand the investment world. So there were 8 investors that I just said, I just can't work with you any longer in this capacity.
Wow.
So
wow. How did that, now, did you just kind of pass them off to agents on your team, or was it like, and I felt the same way. So, over 2020, 2021, my whole goal was to scale out of selling real estate. Just the way our team was operating, where we were trying to get to and all of that stuff, it just made sense. But I got to that point, and kind of similar to you, of if I got to my door to go do a showing and I was already pissed off, that I had to go and do that showing, then I knew that client probably wasn't able or willing to purchase a home.
Yeah.
And during 2020 and 2021, I came up with that idea. And even to this market, like I tell agents all the time, there's 3 types of buyers. You got the qualified buyers. Yes, they can purchase a home, but they may not have everything that it takes in order to win right now. You have the the able buyers, where they do have those funds, but they may not be able to pull the trigger yet, right? Like they're not comfortable with doing the appraisal gap coverage to the extent that they need, or giving the sellers, 60 days possession. And then you have the people that are just willing to do whatever it takes to get a deal done.
Yeah.
And auditing, and I know it's hard for agents, and I'm sure I don't know if it was hard for you, but auditing the clientele that you're working with is so hard to just say no to that potential business.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's where you have to value your time and your business. If you have a pause with anything, whether it's a client, it's a buyer client, selling client, anytime that you have that pause, or that that, damn, I got to deal with this person again today, you need to look at your own business and start valuing your own time. So what I like to do is I take my dollar per hour, right? So if that person is causing me grief, and it's taking me, if they're not willing to run the systems that I have put into place, and we've rinse and repeat, this is what we do, right? And they're like, no, but I want to do it this way. It's like, okay, then you need to work with somebody else, because this is how we're going to do it. And before, it was like, okay, we'll do it your way. Okay, we'll go ahead and do that. We'll do that. We'll do that. And I'm running in 15 different roads, and none of them were becoming profitable, because it was just go time. And it wasn't working.
I'm smiling because, as I went back and listened to our interview from 2 years ago, you mentioned how you have a system and a process for all of your investors to follow. And, the fact that you're able to kind of just look at your business and those people that weren't following that system or that process that was causing you more, headache, heartache, stress, whatever it was, I always tell agents, like, you got to create some filters, right? Like, if they're not in alignment with how you run your business, maybe you're just not the right agent for them, and that's okay. Just go get a referral fee, send them to someone else. And by subtracting some of those clients, you can probably go a lot faster with others that actually will do things the way that you want to conduct your business, that works, right? That you enjoy working with. That's also a big factor into it.
Yeah.